again, this is Doc Rotten with Gruesome Magazine. Joining me tonight is the one and only Jeff Moore. He's here to talk about an anthology film called Monster Pool, 7 Deadly Sins. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm good. And there were indeed 7.
Now, of course, 7 Deadly Sins. I take it that the shorts all followed the 7 Deadly Sins?
Well, they did, but they were kind of unique about it. You know, they took a little bit different twist. Like, for instance, greed was about anything that you couldn't get enough of. It wasn't just money. And gluttony was similar. So there was always a little twist that sometimes made sense, sometimes seemed a little bit like they were trying to get it to fit. But they would explain that through in kind of they had a sort of a wraparound that was an elderly man with I don't know, like 12 or 13-year-old girl that he was grooming to take his place. And they were supposed to help the lost find their way wherever they went. And sometimes they were taking people, and sometimes they were just helping them out. So that was the bridge between each segment. And then at the end, she was there to take him because it was his time to be done and her time to take over.
There you go.
So,
all right. Well, without getting into each and every single one of them, what is the overall impression of these 7 films?
Well, considering, and I'm going by IMDb, but they listed the budget as an estimated $20,000, so pretty micro budget type thing, and it looks pretty good for that amount of money. I think there's a little bit of I would say the acting is uneven. You know, some of them do pretty good and some not as well. And maybe there's a few things in terms of the editing, you know, just something doesn't feel quite right, but you're not really sure what it is. But for the most part, I liked the stories. And I think for the fact that it was such a low budget, they did a pretty good job.
Now, are they kind of like Twilight-Zone-y, or do they have some good scares in them?
I'm going to say a little bit of both. There's some scares, a little bit of gore, but not much, and some odd situations. Probably the grossest one was Gluttony, which involved having somebody captured and tied to a chair and slicing some meat off his calf for dinner. So it wasn't explicit. You know, you didn't see the whole thing, but you saw enough so you knew exactly what was going on. So that was probably the most grisly scene that I can think of. Well, other than the woman having she dies right there in the middle of the room and dumps out a bunch of blood.
Oh dear.
And chunks and things. So anyway, yeah, they were interesting enough that I didn't always know where they were going. A little bit of a twist. So I think a little bit of both, sort of a horror, but kind of a Twilight-Zone thing on the end sometimes too.
Nice. Well, with a lot of anthology films, you know, it comes down to how well they work together, or you know, how diverse they are. Given that they're related by the 7 Deadly Sins, does that give them a strength that other anthologies might not have?
I don't know that I'd go that far, because like I said, it felt like some of them they were trying to fit to it. I understand they were trying to stay away from stereotypes, but at the same time, there seemed like there was a couple that felt like they were trying to fit it into what that would be. So, if that makes sense, I don't know. You know, they talked about pride being unwarranted self-esteem, but yet it was really a story about a serial killer, but a serial killer that was so confident they thought they would never get caught.
So it was pride. I get it.
I guess pride was his fall, although it was. I didn't really get where that came in. Although there was one pretty funny character in that one. The only one I didn't really get was wrath. Was a 7th one, and I just didn't quite get where the wrath part came from. But it was a emotional, disturbing piece if you didn't worry about the label that they put on it.
All right. Well, go ahead and give us your score, 1 to 5 of the overall film. And I guess instead of a favorite scene, go ahead and give us your favorite of the anthologies.
I'm going to put it at 2.5, only because I'm like I said, it was a little. Some of the acting was uneven. I liked the stories. My favorite one was the one on lust, which was a story about a guy that was going out on dates on that was a Tinder type app. And then there was more to it. It turned out he was, you find this out fairly quickly, he was a incubus.
He was. All right.
He was.
There you go. Well, that sounds like a wonderful twist on these. Well, Jeff, thank you for another wonderful review. Let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Be sure to visit GruesomeMagazine.com to listen to the other Gruesome podcasts, Hard News Radio, and Decades of Horror. Also check out the Gruesome Magazine Quarterly, available in digital and print-on-demand format.